Prince Andrew has asked a judge to throw out a rape lawsuit, claiming his accuser was over the age of consent despite denying they had sex. Prince Andrew has asked a judge to toss out a rape lawsuit against him by claiming Virginia Roberts Giuffre was over the age of consent. Ms. Roberts Giuffre, 38, alleges the Duke of York, 61, sexually assaulted her 3 times when she was 17 and filed a lawsuit in New York in August. She filed the case under the New York Child Victims Act, which allowed victims to sue their alleged abuses if they were younger than 18 when it took place. At the time, Virginia said she was holding Prince Andrew accountable for what he did to me. The Sun reports that the royal has asked a judge to throw out the lawsuit, claiming the legislation is unconstitutional and the issue of consent is unsettled. His lawyers said the Child Victims Act is not a reasonable mechanism to address the injustice of child sexual abuse in New York, as it classifies those under the age of 18 as minors, even though the age of consent in New York is 17. Prince Andrew argued, the issue of consent is unsettled with regard to those, like Ms. Roberts Giuffre, who were between the ages of 17 and 18. The lawyers wrote, the Act revives claims for those who allegedly suffered harm as a result of certain sexual offenses they claim were committed against them when they were under the age of 18, even though the age of consent in New York is 17. The legal team argued that accusers must establish a lack of consent by implied threat, but there are no third parties that can testify to the alleged abuse. Prince Andrew's lawyers said, here, the only witnesses to the purported implied threats under which Giuffre allegedly engaged in unconsented sex acts with Prince Andrew are Epstein deceased Maxwell incarcerated Prince Andrew, the accused, and Giuffre herself. Last month, Ms. Roberts Giuffre's lawyers accused the prince of victim-shaming, and using her to gratify his own sexual desires. In response, Andrew Brettler, the prince's lead lawyer, said Ms. Roberts Giuffre's allegations were vague, because she had given different versions of what happened to her. Mr. Brettler said, her complaint is ambiguous at best and unintelligible at worst. Giuffre's refusal to include anything but the most conclusory allegations is puzzling given her pattern of disclosing to the media the purported details of the same allegations. Perhaps it is Giuffre's tendency to change her story that prompted her to keep the allegations of the complaint vague, so as not to commit to any specific account.